All right. The box office results are in, and it looks like Mad Max got pitch slapped. Oh! The sequel to the surprise hit Pitch Perfect exceeded expectations and took the #1 spot at the box office with a staggering $70.3 million opening weekend. To put this into perspective, the original Pitch Perfect made just $65 million in its entire domestic theatrical run and just $14 million on its opening weekend. Mad Max Fury Road took the #2 position, making a respectable $44.4 million, and is expected to have good legs with overwhelmingly positive critic reviews. In third spot is Avengers Age of Ultron, making $38.8 million, bringing its domestic total up to $372 million in just its third weekend. In fourth spot is the Reese Witherspoon comedy Hot Pursuit, making $5.7 million, and rounding out the top 5 is Paul Blart 2, making $3.6 million. John, what stands out to you about this weekend's box office results?
Wow, Pitch Perfect. The first one makes 14-something million on its opening weekend. The second one makes 70.3 million on its opening weekend. You know, it's funny. I think it was with Mark Ellis was on the show, and we were talking about the chances Mad Max has of topping Avengers at the box office. And we all said, yeah, probably will. Avengers is going to be in its third weekend. It'll probably top that. And then it came up, you know, we shouldn't discount Pitch Perfect 2. And we're like, yeah, you know what? You're right. I don't think Pitch Perfect 2 is going to beat Mad Max, but you can't discount it to a lot of big positive word of mouth. Fandango reported that it was actually outselling Mad Max in advance ticket sales, which is sometimes a good indicator, sometimes not so much. But 70.3 million for its opening weekend? I mean, it crushed everything. Just absolutely crushed everything. I was hoping for better results for Mad Max for its first weekend, but I guess it shouldn't be all that surprising. We're talking about a film franchise whose last film came out how many years? 30 years ago. It is an R-rated film, so maybe our expectations were a little bit unrealistic, but I do agree that I think because of how overwhelmingly positive word of mouth critics' reviews are, this movie is going to, I believe it's going to make more than 22 million next weekend. I think it's going to have less than the traditional 50% drop from first weekend to second weekend. So don't discount Mad Max just yet because, like I said, the reviews are so overwhelmingly good. The experience is so good in the theater. So I say hang in there, but man, Pitch Perfect. Anyway, Christian, what do you think?
Well, I did think Pitch Perfect would beat Mad Max, but I thought by like 5 million. That's really what I thought it was going to be, like 45 million and then like 50. But first, I looked at Mad Max first. Everyone who's saying that it's bombing, stop. That's ludicrous. It's silly. This movie is rated R. It's not the movie, and it also was cannibalized from Avengers. That's the same audience. They chewed off each other. Pitch Perfect had none of that audience. It was teenage girls. It was women who liked the first one. It was couples, and they went to see the movie and in droves apparently.
Yeah.
My God, $70 million. That's the most shocking thing for sure. If you would have told me 60, I would have been like, whoa, $70 million? I mean, that's incredible. But yeah, and the other thing is what stands out to me the most is when you did the notes that you actually listed the Reese Witherspoon comedy. I don't know if it's a comedy.
Can't be called a comedy if there are no laughs?
But yeah, those are the two that stand out.
Schnepp?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of comedies this week. I mean, a fat guy on a Segway. You know, the two gals running away from fat guy on a Segway. And it's like, and then of course Pitch Perfect is also a comedy. So I don't know. I'm surprised that Avengers is still making so much money. That's not a failure. It's making it with 38 million
on its third weekend.
On its third weekend, that's insane amounts of money. So I don't know. I don't see Mad Max as being a failure either. I think 44 million for a movie like that no one's even really familiar with any of the other three films because of the way things work, time and such. So I'm really happy for it, and the word of mouth and the positive reviews. I mean, the thing that puzzles me is like how many people are coming. Like some men's group is like, it's a feminist movie. I mean, the silliest stuff I was reading this weekend. I was like, wow, the internet really does like you lift up a weird rock and you're like, oh, those things exist. Put the rock back,
Yeah, it is crazy. You know what? I think for a lot of people who are now saying, oh my, why is Mad Max bombing? Remember, most of the predictions that were out there, most of the forecasts out there called for Mad Max to make somewhere between 40 and 60. So it's in there. This isn't shocking a lot of people. I think the shock was how much Pitch Perfect made.
It was tracking at 35.
Oh, jeez.
That's nuts.
Wow.
So, I mean, nobody should be shocked about the results. I think people are just more shocked that I think the people are shocked right now at Mad Max only making 44. You know what? If Pitch Perfect had made 39, then nobody would be worried about how much Mad Max. I think they're only getting worried because of the illusion that's created because of how much Pitch Perfect made. Don't worry about Mad Max. Mad Max is fine. You know what? Next weekend, a lot of the guys who were dragged out to go see Pitch Perfect. I shouldn't say dragged out. I like the first Pitch Perfect. I like that one. So don't get me wrong, but I think you were right. There are a lot of couples who went to go see Pitch Perfect this weekend. And I think the trade-off is going to be the guys are not going to say to their girls, okay, now you come with me this week and we're going to go see Mad Max. So I think Mad Max is not going to make 40 million next weekend. It's going to drop, but I don't think it's going to drop below that 50% ratio that most films normally do.
The only reason why it might drop that big is because you have Tomorrowland coming also.
Well, that's true.
Those
That's
are
a
all
good
three
point.
of those movies now. Avengers, Tomorrowland, and Mad Max, they all have the same audience. But I think what Mad Max has the capability of doing is what Kingsman did.
Yes.
And
Repeat viewing.
Be in that top 5 for like 7 weeks.
That's all you should do. Just stay in there. Even if it's making 15, 10, 20, just like nip, nip, nip. And the next thing you know, you're like, oh, look how much money. I guarantee you that in like a month or two, we're going to be talking about Mad Max, about how much it ultimately made because it stayed in.
I agree with you. It's just the word of mouth where people, including myself, are like, I have to see it again.
Well,
I just
that's
can't
the
wait
key.
to
I
see
want
it
to see it
again,
again, dude.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us who saw it are planning on seeing it again multiple times. And I didn't even love it as much as most people, but I really enjoyed it. And I told my wife as we were leaving, we're going to go see this again. And when we go again, we're going to be dragging along other people, friends of ours who haven't seen it yet because we're like, you got to come see this. So you're right. The Tomorrowland factor is a definite elephant in the room. It's going to be a big factor, but I also think that return thing. So I'm going to guess like a 40 to 45% drop. This is my guess. Watch, you're going to be totally right and it's going to get crushed.